Hello, 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 and welcome back, or to my ASMR channel. Today's video, I'm going to be showing you 7 of my favorite books of all time. I obviously have more than 7 favorites, but these are just the ones that I wanted to show off because they are special to me. So, let's get right into it. The first book I have here is Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. I have a special connection to this book because I read this book when I was in the psych ward, and it changed my life. I know that sounds a certain way, but it's a deeply philosophical book, and I was struggling a lot with how I felt about certain religions at the time, and my own journey with religion, so I consider myself agnostic. But I went to a non-denominational church growing up and all throughout high school, and I stopped going after I graduated, which is shortly after I read this book. Amazing. And I'm going to read you a little blurb. The narrator of this extraordinary tale is a man in search of truth. He answers an ad in a local newspaper from a teacher looking for serious pupils, only to find himself alone in an abandoned office with a full-grown gorilla who is nibbling delicately on a slender branch. "You are the teacher?" he asks incredulously. "I am the teacher," the gorilla replies. Ishmael is a creature of immense wisdom, and he has a story to tell, one that no human being has ever heard before. It is a story that extends backward and forward over the lifespan of the earth, from the birth of time to a future there is still time to save. Like all great teachers, Ishmael refuses to make the lesson easy. He demands that the final illumination come from within ourselves. It begins with a simple but powerful question. Is it man's destiny to rule the world, or is a higher destiny possible for him? One more wonderful than he has ever imagined. I recommend this book to everybody because I think everybody has something to gain from this book, genuinely. Even if it's outside of your wheelhouse of what you usually read, I think you will love it, genuinely. The next book, Song of Achilles. This book made me cry so hard I almost threw up, okay? And to me, that means it's a good book. Also, Madeline Miller. I'm in the middle of reading Circe. Well, I'm only a couple chapters in, so I'm not in the middle, but whatever. Amazing. I also love the short story she wrote, Galatia. I have that one as well. But we're talking about this one, sorry. Let's read the blurb. Achilles, the best of all the Greeks, son of the cruel sea goddess Thetis and the legendary king Peleus, is strong, swift, and beautiful, irresistible to all who meet him. Patroclus is an awkward young prince exiled from his homeland after an act of shocking violence. Brought together by chance, they forge an inseparable bond despite risking the god's wrath. They are trained by the centaur Chiron in the arts of war and medicine, but when word comes to Helen of Sparta has been kidnapped, all the heroes of Greece are called upon to lay siege to Troy in her name. Seduced by the promise of glorious destiny, Achilles joins their cause, and torn between love and fear for his friend, Patroclus follows. Little do they know that the cruel fates will test them both as never before and demand a terrible sacrifice. I love this book. I love it. I've read it a couple times, but seriously, I was laying on the couch reading this book with just tears streaming down my face because I mean, everyone knows the tale of Achilles. Well, not everyone, but if you're familiar with Greek mythology, you know the tale of Achilles. But this just brings a whole different light to it, and the dynamic between Patroclus and Achilles just warms my heart. And I'm not gonna spoil it, even if you know the myth, but just please read this book, please. Especially if you love books that break your soul. The next one is also a hard read for different reasons. This is My Dark Vanessa. If you know this book, you might be wondering why it's one of my favorites, considering the subject matter, but it's because I relate to aspects of it. But this book goes back and forth between the point of view of Vanessa from 2000 to 2017, goes back and forth. And it's the story of her being groomed by her teacher. And during this book, I read it in 2 days, but I remember I kept having to put it down and just cry because it was incredibly raw and graphic, which some people might have stuff to say about that, but it's a hard read, but I think it's such an essential read to understand what these situations are like for the victims. But let me just go ahead and read you the blurb. 2000. Bright, ambitious, and yearning for adulthood, 15-year-old Vanessa Y becomes entangled in an affair with Jacob Strain, her magnetic and guileful 42-year-old English teacher. 2017. Amid the rising wave of allegations against powerful men, a reckoning is coming due. Strain has been accused of sexual abuse by a former student who reaches out to Vanessa, and now Vanessa suddenly finds herself facing an impossible choice. Remain silent, firm in the belief that her teenage self willingly engaged in this relationship, or redefine herself in the events of her past. Alternating between Vanessa's present and her past, My Dark Vanessa juxtaposes memory and trauma and the breathless excitement of a teenage girl discovering the power her own body can wield. Thought-provoking and impossible to put down, this is an era-defining novel that brilliantly captures and reflects the shifting cultural wars transforming our relationships and society itself. So I'm just going to leave you with that. If you are easily triggered by sexual assault and rape and grooming, do not read that book, please. But if you can stomach it, it's a good read. It's thought-provoking and it's disgusting, but it's still one of my favorite books. I don't know how to explain it. Next we have The Poison Season. This is a young adult novel that I got in an Owl Crate box. So, let me just go ahead and read you the blurb. Lilo has spent her entire life in Endla, coexisting with the bloodthirsty forest and respecting the poisonous lake that protects her island from outsiders who seek to destroy it. But as much as Lilo cares for her community, she struggles to accept that her younger brother will be exiled by his next birthday unless he gains the magic of enchanted song so vital to Endla. When Lilo sees a young outsider on the verge of drowning in the lake, she knows exactly what she's supposed to do. But in a moment that will change everything, Lilo betrays her family, her best friend, and Endla by making an unthinkable choice. Discovery could lead to devastating consequences for both Lilo and the outsider, Jaren, but as they grow closer, Lilo realizes that not all danger comes from beyond the lake, and they can only survive if Lilo is willing to question the very fabric of her society, her people, and herself. This is a good read. So, I love fantasy, period. Any kind of fantasy, really. I struggle with high fantasy just because there's a lot to keep track of in those books, but this is not one of those books. I'm not saying it's like a super easy read. It's not a hard read by any means, but it's captivating, and I really enjoyed it, and it was unique. Next, this has been one of my favorites since I was like 12 or 13 years old, okay? I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This has such a special place in my heart. And I cannot do it justice by explaining it, so I'm not even going to try, but I will read you the blurb. Jude and her twin brother Noah are incredibly close. At 13, isolated, Noah draws constantly and is falling in love with the charismatic boy next door, while daredevil Jude cliff dives and wears red lipstick and does the talking for both of them. But 3 years later, at 16, Jude and Noah are barely speaking. Something has happened to wreck the twins in different and dramatic ways, until Jude meets a cocky, broken, beautiful boy as well as someone else, an even more unpredictable new force in her life. The early years of Noah are Noah's story to tell, the later years are Jude's. What the twins don't realize is that they each have only half the story, and if they could just find their way back to each other, they'd have a chance to remake their world. So at the end there, I don't know if you caught that, it's dual point of view between Jude and Noah, who are twins, and Noah's point of view is from when they're 13 and 14, and Jude's is when they're 16 and 17, I believe. So while you're reading, you have to piece together what happened in the middle, and oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. And I think that everybody should read this book. Genuinely, everybody should read this book. Next up, I have another Owl Crate book, but I got this in 8th grade, of Fire and Stars. This was one of the first LGBTQ books that I read. Two princesses falling in love. It's great. Let's read the blurb. Betrothed since childhood to the Prince of Mineria, Princess Danelia has always known what her future holds. Her marriage will seal the alliance between Mineria and her homeland, protecting her people from the other hostile nations. But Denna has a secret. She possesses an affinity for fire, a dangerous gift for the future queen of a kingdom where magic is forbidden. Now Denna must learn the ways of her new home while trying to hide her growing magic. To make matters worse, she must learn to ride Mineria's formidable war horses, and her teacher is the person who intimidates her most, the prickly and unconventional Princess Amaranthine, called Mare, the sister of her betrothed. When a shocking assassination leaves the kingdom reeling, Mare and Denna reluctantly join forces to search for the culprit. As the two become closer, Mare is surprised by Denna's intelligence and bravery, while Denna is drawn to Mare's independent streak, and soon their friendship is threatening to blossom into something more. But with dangerous conflict brewing that makes the alliance more important than ever, acting on their feelings could be deadly. Forced to choose between their duty and their hearts, Mare and Denna must find a way to save their kingdom and each other. I love this book so much. And it changed me. It opened up a whole new world for me of literature, because I wasn't super familiar with a lot of LGBTQ plus stories, which I read a lot of them now still. But this really opened that avenue for me, and it was great because my mother would have never bought me a book about lesbian princesses, but I got this in the Owl Crate box that I got for Christmas, and my mom didn't know what the contents was, so I'm very glad for that, because if she knew, she probably would not have let me have it. The last book is Babel by R.F. Kuang. You've probably heard of this book. It's a very popular book. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. Let's read the blurb. 1828. Robin Swift, orphaned by cholera in Canton, is brought to London by the mysterious Professor Lovell. There, Robin trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he will enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. The tower and its students are the world's center for translation and, more importantly, magic. Silverworking, the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation using enchanted silver bars, has made the British unparalleled in power, as the arcane craft serves the Empire's quest for colonization. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. But knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, he realizes serving Babel means betraying his motherland. As his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermes Society, an organization dedicated to stopping imperial expansion. When Britain pursues an unjust war with China over silver and opium, Robin must decide. Can powerful institutions be changed from within, or does revolution always require violence? Very important read with everything that's going on right now, I have to say. Well, those are some of my favorite books. And I hope you enjoyed. I hope you added them to your TBR if you haven't read them. I'm gonna put my fable in the link in the description if I can, but sometimes YouTube doesn't let me add links for some reason because I'm a small channel. But I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one.